school, our little mini-series here at the Resilient Kid podcast. Today we're going to be talking all about those back-to-school emotions, whether it's school, college, university, and settling those wobbles, and that's just for us as parents. Well, hello! Welcome back. How does it go to September? I feel like summer went really, really quickly. I don't know about you, but 1 minute I feel like we were just literally washing the uniform from the last day, and now we're, buying new uniforms. For me, I'm also buying all the new uni stuff for my eldest. And here we are, it's September, we're back full force. And for here at the Resilient Kid as well, we often take quite a big chunk of time off during summer, just because our clients are, off school. We like them to take a rest as well as us and the coaches just chilling. But actually summer's been really busy for us, really busy. We've had lots of new clients start, and I think that's because sometimes when children kind of settle a little bit, they're resting, they are not in the routine of school, other things start to pop up. They're relaxed enough that other things start to pop up. And yeah, I think it's been really interesting this year. There's a real turn. I do keep up with the stats, but I often talk about them online. And what we've noticed from the latest stats is that the number's gone to 1 in 5, which means if you're in the north of England, and quite often Wales and Scotland follow suit, is that the mental health statistics for kids is now 1 in 4. And I think from our side and our kind of demographics and the amount of work that we've got coming in and parents asking for help, I absolutely concur. Anyway, back to school. So yeah, I feel like we've had 5 minutes. I always remember as kids, summer holidays just lasting forever. And then as an adult, they also kind of felt like they lasted forever because you had the kids at home. And this year, I just feel like it's flown, absolutely flown. So we're going to do a little mini series on getting back into the swing of it. Today's all around setting emotions. Now, I know that if you're in Ireland, you've already started back. If you're in Scotland, you've already started back. But for here in the UK, next week's the biggie. Some of our students are having little trial days today. A lot of them start back next week. So we're going to be talking about those wobbles you might be seeing, you might be having. Next week, I'm going to talk about practical back to school hacks, routines that kind of help get them just back into that, school routine and bed, and also some top tips for our teens on that, because, I don't know about you, but my teens pretty much had, oh yeah, you can go to bed late, it's no big deal. And actually this week we've said, right, you need to go to bed at 10:30. And I said it the first night because we'd got back off our holidays and we were all shattered. And I said, right, go to bed earlier tonight, mate. And then the next day he went, that was just for last night. Nope, it was not. We need to get you back into the swing of it. Because he's an early riser as well. So it's not like he'd be catching up in the morning, because he absolutely doesn't. And then episode 3 will be friendships, confidence, and that kind of belonging that kids need to feel. So we're going to give you some top tips in helping navigate those challenges, whatever your child's age. So let's get into it today. Going back to school, all the adverts that we see for uniforms in the shops, things like that, we always equate it to, primary. Go and get a uniform, and that back to school feeling. But actually, teens have the same, as in they too can wobble. It just looks different. Okay, so why do we think sometimes, because a lot of them are into it, unless your child is only in year like 1 or 2, we think, oh, well, they should be used to it now. This is the pattern. They know that after summer, after a big break, they always go back to school. But why do we think wobbles happen? Well, let me tell you. Sometimes it's new teachers. Sometimes it's timetable changes, friendships and uncertainty. And for me, the new teachers, yes, we do a lot of, we're quite good in the fact that most schools do a nice transition. You usually already, unless it's a brand new teacher, usually you already know that teacher because they've been around in school, so you kind of know them. Before you break up, you have, a transition afternoon or a transition day. A lot of the time, it's only an hour. And knowing a teacher from afar is very different, isn't it? That they're going to be mine for the year. So that's kind of in primary. In secondary, there is no such thing as having that transition, really. They usually have the same form tutor in senior schools. You could have a brand new science teacher rock up on the first day, first lesson, and introduce themselves. There is no kind of handover. So say, for instance, you have a head of science, let's call him Mr. Smith, and you've got a new teacher, Mrs. Thomas. Ideally, for us to be creating that safe space and that psychologically safe space for our teens, what we would like is, and this might happen, but I've not heard of it anyway, we would like Mr. Smith to come in and say, hey year 8, hey year 11, this is our new science teacher, Mrs. Thomas. Tell him a little bit about Mrs. Thomas, and then kind of be around for that first lesson. Now, I can see logistically it'd be really difficult, but actually if we want our kids in a learning state and to be comfortable and feel psychologically safe, then we need to make sure that they feel that. Now, you might think, well, it's only a new teacher, what's the big deal? But there's loads of nerves around, just sussing people out. If you have a new boss turn up, it's the same kind of feeling. If you don't know them, oh, I wonder what they're going to be like. Are they going to be okay? And it's a perceived threat. And that's what I mean by psychologically safe. Like if we can do anything to alleviate any of those potential feelings of being under threat where, our fight and flight kicks in, then why would we not? Why would we not? So timetable changes. You've just got used to a timetable and then it changes again, and that doesn't matter what age you are. Friendships. And I always think September's a tricky month around friendships because we're back at school, we're back at it. There's potentially new people, might have joined our year group, might have joined our class. But actually, more often than not, we've not seen our friends very much. Now, for the teens, it might be different, but they've still got to go back. They can make their own arrangements in the summer, can't they? Meet up, things like that. But they've still got to go back to that wider group. So again, we're talking about perceived threats. Is everybody okay? Is everybody still okay with me? Do I still belong in this group? Has anything changed? And at time of social media, they don't always know the conversations that have gone on without them. So that's a bit of a tricky time for them. And then for, primary age children, quite often they've not seen their friends since they left in June or July. Because maybe they live far away. Maybe mums and dads don't know their friends. And actually, as parents, we don't always, sometimes we do, absolutely. But if we're not friends with their parents, we don't always take that into account and go, oh, actually, shall we have such a body over for a play date? Or, and do that mutual thing. And if you do as a parent, amazing, absolutely amazing. So yeah, there's that. And it's all the uncertainty of that first day, that first week back. And when I'm talking about that kind of uncertainty and that perceived threat, that's when we're likely to see our kids of any age suddenly, they are dysregulated, they are challenging, they are isolating themselves, they're crying, there's lots of things that we will see that we don't always put down to that response, that, dysregulated fight and flight response. And it was funny yesterday because I was having a conversation with my coaches. We were doing some training yesterday and this came up. And then also last night, I was having dinner with a friend and we were talking about, how overwhelming it is to go to sixth form all of a sudden and be treated as that adult. And actually, when you get loads and loads of information, sometimes teens just go, yeah, it's fine. And then they go. And actually that is a stress response. That fight and flight centre we talk about is fight, flight, freeze and fear. And so it is a freeze response to just go, yeah, and then walk away. And we don't take that into account because we don't talk about it enough. So it's really important that we do start to look for the signs over the next, coming weeks. So signs in kids, usually clinginess, tummy aches, tears, not wanting to go to bedtime, not wanting to leave you. They're kind of all quite obvious, aren't they? Quite obvious. Signs in teens, not so much. So irritability, withdrawal, arguing back, answering back, that kind of thing. And that's really hard, isn't it? Because when a teen answers back, and this is the one of the things that we were training on yesterday, is how we hold ourselves still as an adult and not respond from that very childlike or very critical parent, state where we go, who are you talking to? Things like that. And actually being aware of maybe why this is happening. Complaints, lots of complaints about friends or classmates. That's usually a sign that they're not managing so well. So if they're in a really disruptive class, that's usually a sign that actually they're not managing with that. Maybe it's sensory overload. Maybe they just want to crack on with their learning, things like that. Sudden silence about school. Often I will say to parents, sometimes it's not what's said, it's what's not said. So really lean into that. And then they can have the same physical symptoms like stomach aches, headaches, things like that. Because, of course, if we go, I've got a headache, I don't want to, I've got stomach ache, I feel sick, things like that, then are we less likely to send them to school? Yeah. Now, any canny mum knows that it's usually, and any canny parent, let's put it that way, but usually it is just those nerves. But don't underestimate that kind of anxiety, those nerves that we talk about, can have a physical effect. It can, the adrenaline, cortisol from the nerves that are running around the body can cause physical pain in the tummy. Does that mean that we keep them off? No. But we need to be checking in with them. Absolutely checking in with them. So how do we regulate them? How do we prep them for the first day nerves? How do we, help them just regulate themselves? So, in primary school, there's lots of things we can do for all ages. But in primary school, I've kind of got 3 things to give you that you can help, like what we call out of our toolbox. So one is hot chocolate breathing. So if you're listening, you'll have to just follow the instructions. But if you are watching on YouTube, then you'll be able to see me do it. But you don't really need to see me do it. So hot chocolate breath. And the reason that breathing is so important is because it calms down that fight and flight centre, our amygdala. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth is the quickest way to calm down that fight and flight centre. So if you pretend you've got, put your hands together, pretend you've got a cup of hot chocolate that's hot and there's lots of cream and marshmallows on the top. And I always taught the kids through this. And actually we've got a lovely student over in the Wirral with one of our coaches, SJ, and she taught her student this, and then just happened to tell the teacher, and the teacher was really intrigued, and she came back the next week and all the class have done it. And that's so lovely, isn't it? Because, you know, I always think if we teach these tools for our kids early doors, they've got it for life. We're future-proofing them. So back to the hot chocolate breath. Pretend you've got a cup of hot chocolate and you've got lots of cream and marshmallows on the top, but it's a little bit too hot. But you really want, like, you're so excited for it. So you're going to really breathe in through your nose and smell that lovely, sweet, hot chocolate. And as you breathe in through the nose, you're then going to blow it so just it cools down a little bit. However, not too hard, because we don't want to knock the cream and marshmallows off. So are you ready? In through the mouth, and then slowly out. And again, smelling all that lovely hot chocolate, and out. Gently does it. And one more. And it's so lovely because when I do this with kids and I say, just close your eyes, just imagine you've got that hot chocolate in front of you, what we find is they're like, oh, I can almost smell it. Absolutely we can. But what that does is just calms down our nervous system. The in-breath through the nose really calms down our fight and flight, helps us regulate quicker, and then just calming us down. If you've noticed, even my voice has gone calmer while we're doing it. So it's a great little tool to use with anybody, but particularly for those smaller kids who maybe can't regulate their breathing. And then they've got that little tool in their pocket for any time that they're upset, dysregulated. Yeah. So it's a really lovely little one to use. So you can have that in your pocket as well. Another one is a pocket anchor, what I call a pocket anchor. And we've got some really exciting merch coming based on stuff like this, because I just love pocket anchors. So you can have, if you've got a smaller one, I'm just looking to see if I had anything. I have any with me, but I haven't, I don't think. If you've got a smaller one, you can give them something in their hand that when they put their hand in their pocket, they feel it. And you know, as a parent, I often used to have like two hearts, two little pebbles that were in heart shape, and I would, you know, give one to them and I would have one, and then we'd kiss each other's, swap, put it in our pocket, and any time during the day, if they were feeling upset or missing you or whatever, put the hand in the pocket and they could feel it and they know that we're thinking about them. But it doesn't have to be a heart-shaped pebble, like don't, you know, it could be a piece of Lego, really doesn't matter. But it's just that, and I always used to have one as well, so they knew, and also normalising that we, you know, sometimes get upset, things like that. So pocket anchors are really good, just helps them regulate, because we're grounding, you know, we're grounded, we're taking those 100 thoughts, those worries that they've got, and bringing their focus to whatever's in their pocket. So that's why that's really good and really works well. We also, you can, you know, give them the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 trick. So some people say 5, you know, look for 5 things, you know, 5 blue things, 4 red things, things like that. I think that's a little bit complicated for our younger ones. So I usually just say, get them to count backwards. So whenever they get a worry in the head, like, oh, I'm nervous, or I'm missing dad today, or whatever it is, whenever they think about it, count backwards in the head, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then go, I'm safe, or I'm okay, or my mantra is I'm happy, healthy and safe. And this is a good one to use for any age. So if I go to the dentist, I'm not scared of the dentist, but I don't particularly like it either. And I always find it quite invasive if they're in your, you know, if you've got the hands in your mouth for a little time. I have to actually be careful that I don't gag. So my kids take the mickey out of me all the time because I gag at anything. So I will use that trick myself. You know, if I start to think, oh, how long is it going to be there? I'm like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm happy, healthy and safe. And what that does is it's a pattern disrupt for that worry, and then you're laying over something positive in your brain, so you're not flipping back straight to that loop of, I'm worried about a dentist, or I miss my parents, or things like that. So it's a really good little trick for any age. Like I use it regularly. I know a lot of the coaches have it if they're having a tricky day. I give it to my kids, all my students, pretty much. Adults, I give it to adult clients too. It's a really good one, and it's really easy, and you can remember it. The trick is count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So then as well, anything so you can use that for teens, but also think about getting them to make a playlist, a calming playlist. So you maybe don't want, if they're into kind of, Japanese rock, you wouldn't want necessarily them to be making a playlist of that. So what kind of songs help you stay calm? What kind of songs lift our mood? Because we know in the brain there is music hits a different part, and actually a little bit like, that pattern disrupt where we're coming away from the worries. That's what music does for us. So it's amazing. I get a lot of my teen clients to make their own playlist, and I introduce that by going, send me a song about how you feel right now, or play me a song about how you feel right now. And sometimes that just helps, because then they're not having to talk all the time. And we'll really dissect the lyrics. And it's an amazing, I always love a session like that, because a lot of teens are really into the music, and they might only like 1 or 2 particular songs at that time, but for specific reasons that we as adults kind of just brush over, particularly if it's not it's not our kind of music. But actually listening to the lyrics or listening to the beat really helps give an insight into how they're feeling at that time. So get them to do a little calming playlist and listen to that with headphones as well. Journaling, so before they go to bed, if they're particularly worried, get them to write it down, because it's out of the head then, and they'll be able to sleep better, and it's not just going round and round. And then also with any age, when they talk about those physical symptoms, when they talk about being worried, when they talk about having tummy ache, this is just the body's way of getting them ready. This is the body's way of prepping them ready for the next day. All right. Now, little top tips for parents and carers out there. Younger kids, please, and as working in nurseries, working in schools, sixth forms, universities, I can give this advice all the time. When you have got younger kids, please keep your goodbyes short. It's really important for them. And I know we want to hang on, and we want to make sure they're okay, and we want to peer in the classroom, and we want to hang as much as possible so we can see that they're okay before we leave. I'm going to give you a really hard, sharp shock now. It's not about you. It's not about you. The more they can see you out the corner of their eye, the more they're thinking of you, and not being able to have that pattern disrupt of playing with a friend or getting to their attachment with the teacher. So it is really hard, and I feel your pain. I've been there. But please keep those goodbyes as short as possible, and as positive. Have a great day. You're going to have a brilliant day. And also, don't forget, I'm picking you up, or Nan's picking you up, or Daddy's, whoever it is picking you up. So we'll see you then. Have a great day with Freddie, or, Daisy, whoever it is. Have a great day with Daisy, and I'll see you tonight. I always give them something that we're going to do after that, as in, it might be, I'm going to pick you up and I'm going to take you to Nana's and we'll tell her all about your first day. Done. All right, have a great day. Bye, love you. Done. Out. So please do keep it very simple. Don't be very complicated in your language. If they are a little bit stressed, they will not hear any of that. So just be very positive, very short and sharp, and go. All right. And I know that sounds really harsh, like it's not about you, but it really isn't. And the best thing you can do is to give them that opportunity to settle as fast as possible, because what we don't want is that anxiety lasting all morning. Because, and as well, your teachers that you are trusting are good at this. They're good at settling kids. That's their job. For teens, my top tip would be open-ended questions at the right time. So it might be that your teen after school, after college, needs a little bit of decompressed time. Please respect that. And it might just be that you go, how's your day? And they go, yeah, it was fine. Okay, cool. Leave it for now. Make sure they're eating, make sure they've got a snack. And then maybe at dinner time, maybe if you're in the car, maybe at bedtime, check in then. Allow them to decompress from the day, and you'll find out, because they'll start to tell you stuff. Now, we know some kids will come home and they will just be blurb and they'll tell you everything, and amazing. But actually, check in with them later as well, because decompression and the whole just running away with everything, every detail that they tell you, is both ways that they're processing the day for themselves. And so if we're there with them and walking alongside that and asking open-ended questions, amazing. And also, please keep your judgment to yourself. Even if they say a kid has been really mean, keep that opinion in. You can go into your partner, you can ring a friend and go, guess what this kid did today? But with them, because let me tell you, particularly if they're starting out new, if it's in the sixth form, if you have, there is a kid in primary, whatever it is, they are probably going to change their opinion on that. So don't jump in with that opinion. I once made the mistake of that with my youngest, on a young lad who was being mean. To be fair, he was being mean. But the way that I was a little bit more judgy than I should have been. And I just made a comment about, I am not sure he's such a good guy to be hanging around with. That's all it was. But ever since, he's now really good friends with him. This young lad has matured a lot. And actually, I get, no, he's okay. And I go, I know he is. But that is because I made the mistake 2 years ago of going, should you be hanging around with him? We're a human, but from my experience and my advice, try and keep that to a minimum. So yeah, just think of that as a way of processing their day. And then really, check in with them, whether it's at bedtime, whether it's, over the dinner. Check in with them all, but use open-ended questions, because did you have a good day is really only going to be a yes or no. So what did you get up to today? You're going to get more detail. Okay, so I hope that's been useful for you today. Big apologies that it's not yesterday. Our podcast usually comes out on a Thursday. However, we had a big training day and I just got back up for holiday. So the lovely Chantel, our VA, is working rapidly as this is being recorded at 7:30 in the morning. On Friday the 29th, she is going to turn that around and get it out today for us, because she's a star. And thank you, Chantal, for always having our back. So just before we finish, good luck to you as parents. And, I hope the tips there have been useful for you and useful for your kids. If you have got kids going back to primary school or starting school, amazing, good luck. If you've got those moving up to high school, if this is your eldest going, then you're in for a bit of a ride, but we're here, we have your back. Come over to the village if you're struggling, because I always think moving up to high school is very different transition for parents, because you're used to seeing other parents and kids at the playground. You know what's going on. You see the teacher every day. It's not like that at high school and senior school. There's not as much communication. The kids get on with it. They don't know the teachers as well, and you often don't know their friends very well. So yeah, good luck with that. But come over to the village, our Facebook group. It's free. If you're struggling, if you're having any worries or doubts, you can always post in there and we'll answer. We always do an Ask Me Anything on a Saturday morning live. And also there's an anonymous button as well if you didn't want to be named. It's just a safe space, but we have that there specifically for that reason. If you've got kids going up to sixth form, as I know we've got a few in the TEDx team, so Catherine Sandland, her youngest is going up to college this year, so good luck to him. And yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's hard, it's new, it's a transition into more adult, more responsibility. They're responsible for their own learning. They've not got somebody chasing them for homework. It's, you do it or you don't, and there's a consequence to that. So it's a very different shift for those, 16-year-olds. So good luck. And if, like me, you've got one going to university, my heart goes out to you. This weekend we're going shopping for all the university stuff, and best of luck. And you know what? If your child wanted to go to university and didn't make it this time, that's okay too. Sometimes we just have to do a different path. And if they're starting apprenticeships, also good luck with that, or starting a new job. And it's funny actually, because two of her friends just went, I'm not going. And they'd applied, they'd got spaces. They went, I'm not going. One's going into the firefighting service, which is amazing. One of her girlfriends, which I absolutely love that she's doing that. Another one just said, no, I'm going to get a job. I want to get a job and I want to earn. She said, I just don't think university's for me. I don't want to rack up all that debt. Amazing. And I love the fact that these young people have got their own mind and, and they've got parents that are backing them up, and that's what we're here for, isn't it? To walk them home, whatever that decision is for them, I'm sure will turn out to be the right one in the end. So good luck, parents. Wishing you all the love and the luck in the world. And we'll see you next week for kind of those back to school hacks. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.